This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Good Friday, everyone. It is January 19th, 2024, and it's snowing in your nation's capital.
Yeah.
Which means nobody knows how to drive. There's traffic jams all over the place, so stay in and listen to the doctors today.
So we all live in slightly different jurisdictions. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I live in Montgomery County, but the snow can be different from one place to the other.
Yeah.
Dave, you're out there in Virginia, so how was your snow?
I don't know. It seemed like more like 5 inches, but I don't know if that was official. So I would say about 5 inches. You needed a little bit of a shovel, nothing major, but we had a plow come through. I live in kind of a side street, so we had a plow, fortunately. But the main roads were all fine. I had no problems on the main roads, so it wasn't too bad. I guess just the problem is the freezing. So tonight, could be a little slick.
Yeah. I would say down kind of we got about 6 inches, maybe 5.5 to 6. And usually, Don, you guys get the jackpot up in Up County, where it's like a lot more than what we get.
Yeah, but I look like I said before on the pre-show kind of thing like that. It was that looks like where I am. It's going to be between 4 and 5. Well, see, it's still coming down, but just not heavy. But if it just keeps coming down, it'll still add up. All I know is that I want to get to the gym in the morning, which won't open until 8, because I skipped it this morning. Because when I got up at 3:30 and I looked out the window, I'm like, no, I am not driving 6 miles at 4:30 in the morning and on roads.
So where do you go now? The Gold's is shut down. The Gold's gym shut down, right? The one by you.
The one by us, yeah. The reasoning was that the county, eminent domain, because it's right by the air park. So, there was a core group of us that would show up between 4:30 and 5, and we've kind of scattered, but we stay in a text chain. And one of them said that she was going to go, she was going to go there, and then next thing I know, she texted. She says, "I'm just going to stay home and sip coffee." So
yeah, it was bad. I mean, it's like I don't know about you guys. The snow just makes me sleepy and tired. And my joints ache,
Yeah, I've never been a big winter guy myself. I really hate the snow. I hate driving in it. Sometimes people say, "Oh, isn't it so pretty?" I've never thought it was pretty.
By the way, did you see that Montgomery County, like back in my day, and I think probably in your day too, Don, the county budgeted for 5 snow days. Now they only budget for 2 or 3 snow days, but yet they start school before Labor Day, and they still end, because we used to start after Labor Day, and we would end around June 18th would be the last day of school. And now they basically start up in August, ruining people's vacation plans, and then they basically go all the way to June 18th. And I think it's funny that these teachers, they want to go to school more often than, but it's like, why are you starting school so early? If you can't manage to do what you have to do in the allotted amount of times, I believe it was the Moco show that had the article how they're saying, oh, we might have to shorten spring break or get rid of this or get rid of that. How about you get rid of some of those damn professional days you guys have? I think between September and Veterans Day, they have one 5-day-a-week school schedule. They got half days, they've got professional days, they got other professional days, we want to go to the amusement park day for teachers, they got the teachers union meeting they do sometime in October, and it's stuff like that, these teachers and so on, they're always taking time off. That is true. That is
okay.
true,
Hey, Rich is kissing up to Dwight tonight right now there.
That is very true, Rich.
Look, Dwight didn't even have to mention Spiro. Somebody else mentioned Spiro before Dwight.
I know. It's like, well, I think we're coming to a point where it's time to not rehabilitate, but talk about all the accomplishments of Spiro Agnew. And he did have quite a list of accomplishments under his belt when he was governor of Maryland. The biggest one being the second span of the Bay Bridge. It's also what kind of got him in a little bit of trouble, I think, the second span of the
Wait, you should write a book about him.
I've actually toyed around the idea of doing
get the MD, have a you have a Bob Ehrlich thing like last year. Then the next thing you do is you celebrate Spiro Agnew and get Agnew's, what was it, his nephew or whatever it was?
Get John to be the keynote speaker.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Let's regale in those glory days, kind of a thing like that. Or
here's the thing: Spiro Agnew, he was the first of the Reform era governors. He did bring corruption down in state government when he became governor. He only had 2 years as governor, of course, because President Nixon had the good sense to pick a Marylander to be his running mate. And nothing against all the other Maryland folks. Martin O'Malley, I'm talking about you. Spiro Agnew is the closest any Marylander will ever get to being president of the United States.
Yeah.
So I think it was Agnew that had that thing that talk about the media, calling them the nattering nabobs of negativism.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Hey, did your dad know Spiro Agnew? Because he would have been a contemporary of his.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever had any contact with him. I just remember that whole quote because I think Bruce Hersonson used it in his book called the TV Gods of Antenna or something like that, whatever that thing was called. So he. I don't know. I think back in the at least the early part of those the early days, my father was still very wrapped up with doing his.
That's right. That would have been when he was on the reserve board.
His kind of anti-communist stuff, and because he was doing AIM, in his spare time because he was still working for the government. So.
What the line "nattering nabobs of negativity" was that written by I had always heard that Buchanan had written that, or was it William Sapphire? But one of the speechwriters wrote that for him in that famous speech. They made up those words, nattering nabobs and negativity.
If I had to bet, I'd say it's probably Pat Buchanan. I don't see Bill Sapphire.
It would almost sound like something that he would do, except that Sapphire, if you think about it, that guy was a real wordsmith. He was he was just a student of all of these kinds of things. So it's not implausible that he would have had a hand in there. So
it's ironic we mentioned more research. I ordered one of his books. William Sapphire wrote a book. He wrote lots of books, and so I ordered one of his the other day just to read up on him. He died like 2009, I think. 2010.
Well, he went to go run a newspaper, right? Was it the Times? Or
he was the New York Times. He was like their conservative, the House conservative.
Yeah, token conservative at the New York Times.
But he was very, very good writer, very smart. Something else I was thinking about him, I now had forgotten. Oh yeah, remember the time when he called Hillary? He said she was a congenital liar, and the media was outraged that you would claim someone like Hillary might have lied. And I remember they brought him on like Meet the Press or some of the other shows to see if he wanted to apologize for it. And I don't think he backed down. I think he stuck to it.
Well, it's funny you should mention Hillary Clinton and Sapphire and someone else of that era, Howie Bernstein, who I think was on the payroll of Moscow at that time, the Washington Post may as well be the Pravda at that. Anyways, but I saw him at a press party in Cleveland in 2016, and I go, are you going to issue? When are you issuing your apology to President Nixon and his family? Considering Hillary Clinton has done far worse.
Yeah.
And he made a comment, Nixon was a crook. Hillary was just a liar.
Okay.
I'm like, really?
Cattle futures deal, Whitewater.
Oh, you know what's funny though? Afterwards, as we were waiting to catch the Uber, we're waiting at this. He's right there next to us. I go, you sure you don't want to apologize? I got to get him again.
I always thought that Bill Clinton was, he was a great liar, but he was the kind of guy who didn't actually, in some respects, realize, I think he thought he was telling the truth when he was lying straight through his teeth. I mean, he believed in these lies so much he felt that they were the truth.
Yeah,
and he just kept spitting them out.
Well, what was George Costanza's line? It's only a lie is not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's funny. I just what do you call it? Channel surfing yesterday, and they actually had that not that episode, but they had the one where he's working somewhere and everyone's like walking up and down the stairs. He's got that little chair right going up the stairs. I'm like, that's kind of funny, But
yeah, I saw a picture, saw some video of Clinton in New York. And boy, he's gotten old. I mean, he looks old. I mean, he's really aged. I saw a clip of him getting out of the car, and he was casually dressed, but
does he have a cane yet?
Kind of walking a little unsteadily, just going into his building. So now we're all getting older, I guess.
We don't. I mean, we used to hear about Bill Clinton all the time. It's really, we only really hear about Hillary now. I mean, she's now the one that's doing all of those.
Yeah. Do they even live together? I guess they're still married. But
yeah.
Are they even together?
Okay. So for Rich's sake here, it's miserable, carping, retro-mentioned vigilante in that order. And that is Ben Bradley to my father.
Yes, the evil Ben Bradley.
His wife, Sally Quinn, came to NET, Dwight. I don't know if you remember, but she was on
I do seem to remember that.
I gave her the tour of the building. She's very, very nice. And I was telling her about NET. She didn't know anything about us at the time. Maybe she kept coming back and when you saw her, but maybe it was her first time there. But yeah, she seemed very nice, lovely lady, I thought.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing about, we have these liberals that we tend to vilify a lot of times because of their public actions, but when you meet them or things like that, sometimes you have to realize, I mean, they are human beings, right? And they're sometimes, it's like I've always kind of felt this way about like Sam Donaldson. Donaldson and Reagan had that whole thing with the, Mr. President, and he's going to the helicopter and the whole 9 yards. And, people I knew always hated Sam. They said, oh, it's so rude for him to yell. But, Reagan's people knew exactly how to handle that. I mean, it was, that was perfect for them. And they've, one thing I always gave Donaldson credit for that, people I don't think really thought about was that all the years that he did the whole, shtick with Bob Novak at CPAC, he didn't have to do that, right? Year after year after year, he actually liked doing it. He liked that. He did not mind, getting the the boos and the hisses from the conservatives. But I always thought that was good of him. I mean, it probably helped him in some ways, but to me, it said, here was a guy who was willing to step into the lion's den as such, and just go toe to toe with Novak, who was great, right? I mean, I think Novak was heads and tails above, was above, where Donaldson was. But I thought, they had a great banter, and it was a very popular, panel every year, and so I don't think that that we should be vilifying some of these people sometimes as much as we do.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't actually got to see them up close. I mean, it's kind of like Ted Turner. Ted Turner during all those years of owning CNN and everything like that, people hated him. It's like conservatives thought, oh, he was terrible, but Ted actually is a pretty decent guy. My father, used to go down to the Turner Broadcasting shareholders meetings, and when my father asked him years ago about, speaking at, our conservative, what do we call that? We call it the conservative
CLC, Conservative Leadership Conference.
CLC. He couldn't do it the year that my father asked him because it was like in June or whatever, and the thing we had scheduled for, I think, November.
Yeah.
But he said, ask me next year. So my father made sure that he got on him a little earlier next year. And lo and behold, that year, Ted came with Jane in tow. Bernie Shaw was in the audience. Larry King was in the audience. And John Holloman did a segment on the vendors.
Oh, really?
So you're like, wow, okay. And Ted's talk, not good. It was not a very good talk, but I think
Hey, did he meet his doppelganger, by the way?
Appreciated the fact that he would come, right?
When he was at CLC, did Ted meet his doppelganger?
Jim Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Jim attended.
I want to say Jim had a story that they ran into each other at National Airport, Reagan National, at one point.
Yeah.
And somebody confused, and sort of made the comment, you should yell at Ted Turner. People keep confusing, calling him Ted Turner, insulting.
Well, I heard once Jim Martin went to CNN. He was going to be a guest. And he went into CNN, and they literally thought it was Ted Turner.
Yeah.
And so they called upstairs to so and so, said, "Hey, Ted Turner's in the building."
It's undercover boss.
Well, I've always felt insulted because I have been on more than one occasion been accused of being Dennis Kucinich's doppelganger, and I'm like, I don't see it. It's like I don't. My wife will say, it's like, well, that's just an insult. But
taller than he is, one.
Well, the first time that happened, I was at a state policy network meeting in Cleveland, and somebody had mentioned this, and I'm like, what? I was like, never had I been ever had anything like that. And then I get in the cab to go to the airport, and the cab driver starts looking at me funny, right? And I'm like, okay. You think I'm Dennis Kucinich, don't you? And you kind of
you could have had some fun with that. Saying, but I'm going to let you know a little too. I am going to publicly denounce my pro-choice.
Yeah,
and I'm coming out of the closet as a pro-life.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never saw. It's like I'm half Japanese. How does this happen? I like Rich's comment though. See, Rich, that's what she's kind of getting to what I was thinking about. It's just you attack the ideas and not the personal character.
Let me tell you, Howie Bernstein, for the person he is, for his politics, but he's actually a fun guy to hang out with. Unlike, say, David Gergen, who's a miserable human being.
Yeah.
Because CNN was thinking at the hotel.
Yeah, look, there's some people that are just as bad as their public persona. Okay.
Yeah. CNN was staying at the hotel where we were at in 2012 for the Tampa convention. Yeah, so we saw him, we saw James Carville, we saw the woman that passed the debate questions on to Hillary Clinton, Donna Brazile. That was when I think Julian Malveaux was also working for CNN as a contributor. But I think the nicest guy was Jim Carville. He was very nice, I mean, he was also he made a comment when he in '92 at the San Diego convention. He came because Mary Madeline had the talk show then that she was doing. So he had come over. They were going to lunch, and he made a comment how he goes, "You guys are treating me a lot nicer than some of our guys would treat some of you guys at our convention." I mean, nice guy. David Gregory's another one who's like a pompous prick in real life too, just like he is on television. Tim Russert was a really nice guy though.
Who?
Tim Russert.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was much better than actually. He was probably the best host for Meet the Press after David Brinkley, frankly.
Yeah. Hey, you remember what was the name of the Italian restaurant up the little joint up the street that we had at
Vivaldi's.
the old, huh?
Vivaldi's.
No. Right up the street, just on our same block at AIM when we were on Connecticut Avenue. It was right next to the dry cleaner. I can't remember the name of that place. And then they opened up kind of a white tablecloth restaurant across the street in the Days Inn area. But that little Italian place, that was a favorite haunt of Tim Russert.
Huh.
So, I mean, NBC, it's from Nebraska Avenue. It's not that far
It's
away.
not that far away. Yeah. It was right up the street.
Every once in a while, and I never did this, but I know people who have, I mean, who actually would go in there and they actually would see Tim Russert in there.
Mm-hmm.
But Russert, Russert was he was a good guy. I mean, he was fair. I mean, so.
And I'll tell you, even Larry King, for his liberal politics, as he was a downright nice guy, frankly. I ran into him at Duke Zebert's, actually. Mm. He was having lunch with Linda Carter and Robert Altman.
Mm. Yeah.
And
I swear people ate at Duke so they could see who else was eating there.
Yeah, that's
I saw Larry King there once.
Yeah, I went there for the whole purpose with my friend Angela.
Isn't that the place, Duke Zebert's, where they set up? Remember Jimmy the Greek? Jimmy the Greek. He was the football prognosticator. Got in trouble because of his.
Yeah.
Well, I think they set him up at that restaurant that he was there. They knew he was going to be there. And that's when the reporters came in and then asked him the questions. And then I guess he got flustered and then he said things that were, I forgot what it was, but it was something racially insensitive.
Yeah.
That was the end of his sort of career. That was sort of the end of his time there on NFL Today or whatever.
But then he went on to.
I never quite got into Jimmy the Greek on that thing. I thought, why is he on here? But actually, if he was still around today, it would be very interesting because sports betting is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he probably have some very interesting takes on what has happened in the sports betting world, because it's I mean, how many times do I get things for sports betting because I'm on a email list for some sports news? I'm like, stop it.
Well, it's like if you notice, there's a lot of they also spend a lot of money on Facebook advertising, YouTube advertisement. If you forget to log into YouTube and you're not using your YouTube Prime, you get to see those commercials. But I'll tell you this: seeing those commercials, NBC was really hyping their Law and Order return yesterday, and
I noticed. I mean, I went to Peacock and I started looking around, and I noticed today, and kind of perusing some of the shows that have returned, the Chicago shows as well as the Law and Order, that there was a lot more kind of retrospective kind of thing. There was on the intro, because they've been off for so long, right? The new season has basically been delayed by about 4 months. And I kind of think that they felt like they needed to kind of remind people, what had been going on, because, the last shows I probably aired in like May.
Yeah.
So,
I think that it's been so long, they forgot what evidently season 24 ended with a cliffhanger where somebody put out a bounty on the gal and the guy from Organized Crime. And honestly, if you're going to hype up the shows this way, give us something more than just a random episode, and I've been looking at the highlights and stuff like that on YouTube. And it's like, maybe I should sit down and watch the full 3 hours of all three of the shows before I pass judgment. But from the stuff I saw, it was just like another episode. It was not premiere worthy. This could have been easily been episode 26 or 20, or 18 or 13 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that the Law and Order stuff is great television per se, but I mean, Dick Wolf, I will, he has a formula that he uses for all his shows, including, the FBI series and stuff like that that he does. and it works, right? It's very, to me, it's very formulaic, but the ratings are solid enough. I mean, Law and Order's on what, season 25 now or
Yeah,
something?
and Law and Order, the original, is on 23.
Yeah. So
Organized Crime's only then again, Organized Crime's I think a newer show, so I think it's only season 6 or something like that.
yeah. So I mean, that's that's kind of broadcast television versus streaming, because you're not going to see shows on Netflix or Amazon go for more than just 2 or 3 seasons in all likelihood. So
yeah, and I personally don't like that. I really think Nexstar buying CW has just ruined television. All the Arrowverse shows are all going to be gone at the end of this season. When Superman and Lois goes off, it'll be the end of the Arrowverse. That spanned over 10 years. The start of the Arrow, and they had a bunch of shows through that whole universe. But Nexstar wants cheaper programs, so they're just buying programming from like Europe and Canada. They're just rerunning it, like original programming.
I used to watch a lot of that CW stuff, and then I just kind of lost interest, and so it's been years since. I don't know. I mean, I think part of it. Did they take over like Supergirl or whatever that was once CBS ran it or whatever? Because I thought that show was kind of fun at the beginning.
Yeah.
But boy, did it start to get very wokey.
Oh yeah, when they added the lesbians,
and I'm like,
trans,
bi, just like, I like those. I like a lot of those shows, but when they start interjecting these other cultural things like this, I'm like, I'm sorry.
That's what's happening to Marvel. If you look at Marvel on Disney, it's a flop now. Nobody's watching those shows. Like She-Hulk got panned and canceled. The last 2 Marvel movies, The Marvels, and there was another one. I didn't bother watching either one of them. They both got panned, and then now you've got another Marvel movie coming out this year, which is probably is Spider-Man. He's found his way home, I guess. I don't know what this one's going to be called, but
I think both Disney, and I guess does Warner own DC Comics or?
Yeah, they've got. Yeah, I think DC might be. Yeah, I think it's a subsidiary of Warner.
Yeah,
Warner Brothers.
At least Warner. So I think both studios are kind of looked at. They may have stretched some of these things a little bit too far, and I think they're pulling back. I mean, Disney just had a short series called Echo. That was kind of. I mean, I watched. It was kind of interesting. I mean, the actress. I mean, I guess it's very politically correct in the sense that the lead actress, she's Native American, she's deaf and an amputee. So it kind of ticks off all the all the little boxes in there, but I think she was on episode. She was like a sidekick of Hawkeye or something on or whatever for an episode or something like that. So anyway, it's interesting to see. I mean, I don't like these. I don't like it when it gets too politically correct, obviously, but I was kind of like, well, this is a little bit different to have someone with those kind of disabilities on there. Though I think there's a lot of play on the American side.
Actually, Rich, this is not classic.
Yeah, I know. We go down that path. How about some news?
Yes, we had the Iowa caucuses last Monday.
Yeah,
and no surprise,
well, I guess, but the one significant thing there is kind of significant, and I had pointed this out earlier, that if DeSantis, and Don said this, DeSantis needed to come in a second at least. And,
but I think he's done.
And he did, but I mean, it wasn't. He was Trump won by a wide margin, right?
Yeah.
And Nikki Haley was nipping on his heels.
Yeah.
So,
and he needed to be like somewhere in the mid-20s to low 30s to be viable. And I think Nikki Haley, if she cannot win in New Hampshire, she's done too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. It's an open primary, and Democrats don't really have a contest. So will Democrats?
They don't have a contest by choice. Remember, they've decided we're not going to do an Iowa caucus. Florida Democrats don't want to have a primary. Even though there are now there's one Democrat running for president, congressman from Minnesota,
That's right.
and he's not. He's not going to be on any of the ballots.
The Democrats in Iowa kind of sowed the seeds of their own destruction. They had a lot of trouble with the vote counting and everything like that, and that was all the excuse that the DNC needed with Biden as president, with knowing Biden was going to be stronger in South Carolina, is to basically strip Iowa, and then make South Carolina their primary focus to get Biden off to a good start for the Democrats.
Yeah. Because remember last time Biden, I looked this up. Apparently, he came in 5th place last time in New Hampshire. So they wanted to get rid of. They wanted to bypass New Hampshire. Clearly.
Yeah, they did. They that's why. I mean, the process continues to be rigged on the DNC side, right? Before we had the super delegates, which I guess have those things have been altered and everything like that. But it's just this is Biden's nomination unless Michelle Obama decides to come in on this or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
But the crazy to me, the craziest thing about the Iowa caucus results was Laura Loomer, coming up with this whole voter fraud in the one county that Trump didn't win. And as I recall, that county was a Biden plus 40. So
is that the Des Moines, Iowa City area?
I can't remember exactly. And so it was by one vote, and it's like, look, he won. Okay, he won virtually everything. Are we really going to keep this whole voter fraud thing going in a caucus? Can we put that aside? Can we ignore Laura Loomer? Okay. I mean, this is the part of the problem with the Trump brigade is just that there are too many really kind of kooky people that kind of distract from the main messages. Trump is hard enough to control as it is. We don't need the other stuff on top of it.
Oh, yeah. Chemtrail Kerry Lake.
Well, so then I guess Haley. So when is New Hampshire? That's
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So
the first time I think the Iowa caucuses used to always be on a Tuesday. Okay. But here's the question: what if we start the primaries and caucuses in the South and work our way up north? So by the time we get to the north, the weather's better.
New Hampshire and Iowa both love their little spots.
They like it, but people, as I like to say, people in hell like ice water too.
Yeah, the weather was extremely bad. This time around.
And Texas has one of each. They got a caucus and a primary.
It is Iowa, and it kind of it's going to be cold. It was just exceptionally cold this time around. So it's there's something about that. I mean, I had my daughter's sister-in-law and her family lived in Iowa for a while her husband went to med school and then took a job there, and she caucused. I think for somebody who grew up in Utah, it was an interesting experience. So there's something about that. There's some tradition and things like that. I think that's fine. I mean, there's no harm in the caucus. Is kind of the first step of trying to weed out some of the other lesser candidates anyway.
Ryan Binkley is still in it though, Don. Ryan Binkley is still in this to win. He has not dropped out yet, and he got 1% in Iowa. I was shocked by that.
Well, the thing when I saw that Asa Hutchinson had dropped out, I'm thinking like I forgot he was still in it.
Okay, because I know Burgum dropped out and endorsed President Trump.
Yeah, but I do think But I think overall it's a good thing to have because it's good to force your candidates to have to get involved in retail politics. And the same thing I like New Hampshire as well. I think they've got a great tradition as well.
Except they got an open primary, independents can come and vote.
Yeah, but they've
had that for years. I tell you,
it's not terribly unique, and some states, and then we have states who where the party decides whether or not to have a primary or a caucus or convention or something like that.
Look at Virginia.
Virginia has done that, right? They've gone to some years Republicans have had a convention. Other years, I think they've had a primary, to choose their candidates. So, but I like what I like. I agree with you 100%, if not 1,000%, on the retail politics and things like that. The Iowa caucus is that you need to get out there and meet the people. I mean, there's, what was it, 99 counties or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a vast type of a thing. I think you learn a lot. I mean, I think it's good for the politician to get out there and do that, whether or not they finish first or fifth or 10th or whatever, depending upon the year. Yeah. I think it's a really good learning experience for all of them that participate in that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the other thing is, this is sort of an aside, but you got to think that this is not a small impact on the economy.
Right.
You know, when every 4 years you got all these people coming into your state.
Yeah, no, I mean, I looked at it one year. I mean, you know, hotel rates shoot up, everything else becomes, you know, but it pumps a lot of money. I mean, it's, you know, it's somewhat akin to a Berkshire Hathaway meeting. Okay, so I don't know if you heard about, you know, how that's worked over the years, but you know, that's Warren Buffett's company, and the annual meeting is held every May, early May, usually the first couple of days of May. You know, in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And this company, the popularity of Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, you know, the world's greatest investor, has become so huge that they had to rent larger venues. I mean, I think they're using the arena in Omaha to hold this thing, and it goes on for hours. But it's an economic boon to the city of Omaha. People come in early. And because there's some stuff, Buffett owns a bunch of different companies, so a lot of the people there come and they want to eat in the steakhouse, or they want to go buy jewelry in the jewelry store or whatever. And then there's a whole bunch of like merchandise, which I forgot to. I may have to go to Omaha one year just so I can get a Warren Buffett Squishmallow. Okay. I think it was only available at the meeting. All right. For me, that I saw that one year as a picture. I thought, this is hilarious. I mean, the guy is his own economy. I mean, the amount of things that he brings, and that's the Iowa caucus. You do this every 4 years. You bring a lot of people and a lot of money goes throughout Iowa, right? Because they've got to go everywhere. It's not just Des Moines. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah. And here's the thing about Warren Buffett. There's a lot you can learn from the guy. He's never bought a brand new car. He's
a cherry coke guy.
He doesn't have cell phones. He does not have a cell phone. You know, I'm sure he's got an assistant with him that has a cell phone that follows him around. But you know, I mean, I remember life before the cell phone. I mean, we all do. You know.
I do.
Life was simpler.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, so. Yeah, a lot of us are trying to get to Milwaukee, Rich. You know, I am.
Well, I mean, you're a state party official. You should be able to go, right?
Yeah. But I'm also going to run. I want to be a delegate too. So I'll probably, you know, if I'm not selected by one of the presidential campaigns, I will run at the convention as an at-large delegate, like I did last time. You know, but yeah, I think everybody should go to a convention at least once in a lifetime. It is a great thing to go to.
I love my time in Houston.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever get back to another convention. Houston was great. That was, you know, like I think we talked about that last week. Reagan.
Well, we're back in Houston next year. In 4 years, 2028 is going to be in Houston.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Did they select that already?
Yep. And I was kind of excited about it. I really wish we would, you know, Democrats only go to Democrat states for their conventions. You know, that's right now they're kind of chained to New York, Massachusetts, Chicago, and California are the 4 places they can really do those conventions, you know, because we've got a lot of Republican governors in other places, and they don't want to go to the other places that Democrats might be governing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I have mixed emotions. I think that I understand in some regards, like, you know, sometimes the selection is influenced by the fact that you will hope to attract maybe some other voters that you wouldn't normally get if you go into a blue state. But, you know, by and large, I mean, to me now, things are so polarized. I don't know that makes a difference anymore. Just go to a state that'll give you what you need to get, right? You know, and have the facilities. They have the convention facility, they have the hotels, and they have the infrastructure itself to get you around and can do all the things that they do.
I really wish it was in Arizona. If we did it in Phoenix this year, it would have been so much fun. I mean, July in Phoenix, it's hot, but there's this called air conditioning.
Summer in Arizona is not
There's something-
pleasant. Okay,
there's something called air conditioning. Or
yeah,
if
but
we've
when you
gone
walk
to,
outside, look, I mean, I've been to an NRA convention in Phoenix in the summer. I mean, it's okay, but it's like, you wilt.
Mhm.
If
Well,
you're
it's like
just
Florida in the summer. So that's we should have gone to. We could have gone to Jacksonville.
Well,
You know.
how about this idea? This will be the 60th anniversary of Barry Goldwater's convention. Why not do it in San Francisco? Have it back at the Cow Palace.
I don't think they can accommodate all the people that go to conventions today.
I guess not. Yeah, what's the Cow Palace? I guess was small, but anyway, that's just a thought. It's 60th anniversary.
Yeah, Barry Goldwater.
The reason I always think of that, remember Morton Blackwell? I worked for him for years, but
he was a delegate. He was a Goldwater delegate.
Yeah, he'd always point that out. It was the youngest Goldwater delegate.
That is so.
Yeah, that's right. That is so much him. He was very proud of that fact.
Yeah. Remember, anybody who ever went to an LI school, their future success is always because they went to an LI school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Take one class. Go to one class, and your future success is now all because of that one class.
Yeah,
hey, Don, the immense success I have with contracts at NASA, NIH, FDA, and a bunch of other government agencies, right? It's all because I took 3 classes at LI. I'm 3rd vice chairman of the Maryland GOP because of the class I took at LI. But by the way, going back a little bit back to Law and Order from last night's episode, they did the Hamas issue. They had this, but I was actually impressed how they did it. They had these militant pro-Hamas people. They assassinated the president of the university in their universe, and because he was Jewish, and he basically banned the Hamas student people and kicked him off of campus. So he was knifed, and the professor, was also, and I think one of the DAs on the show is like Lebanese or something like that. And she actually said, it's so sickening how these people are such anti-Semitic, these are just full-blown terrorists. And I think that was I was impressed that a show on NBC actually was pro-Israel.
Wow, that is something.
They were more pro-Israel than the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And
Dean Phillips, who's running, he is Jewish, isn't he? Or someone said he might have been Jewish. Might be Jewish.
Dean Phillips might be.
But anyway, I think he's had a lot of disagreements with the squad types.
Yeah, and you have.
He is Jewish. That's what I looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you call? We've got also Hunter Biden was on Capitol Hill last week, or was it this week?
Yeah.
Well, he's agreed to testify in private now, right? That's the.
Yeah. And
he's an odd one. He was there with his lawyer, Abby Lowell.
Show up, or do you think he'll do what he did last time? Go to the parking lot, do like a press conference with Chucky Schumer.
Yeah.
And then go away.
But here's the thing about that. He went there, that one stunt, and he talked about all I want is a public hearing. Well, when he's speaking there, he's got all the national cameras, you got all these reporters, and I don't think he took any questions. Mm-hmm. So if he really wants a national hearing, he could have had it right there and taken questions, but I think he just left.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is, in another funny moment from this week, John Kerry got called to task for taking a private jet to Davos. And the reporter actually said, so for the peasants, we can.
Yeah.
And that is why one of the main reasons he did not get elected president in 2004, him yachting on the sailboat, that was like the Mike Dukakis tank picture.
Yeah.
And his comment about, hey, you can be really smart or you end up in Iraq, so only dumb people are going to Iraq.
That's right, yeah.
It's typical of Democrats, pretty much, By the way, Democrats are still whining about the Florida 2000 elections. On this channel, so one of the channels, some Democrat was saying, you don't see us complain. You just started complaining about Florida. And they were like talking about Trump's people are still complaining about the election being stolen. They go, you don't see us complaining. about Florida, which legitimately was stolen by the Supreme Court and Jeb Bush. I thought you guys liked Jeb Bush. I thought he was the Bush you guys liked. But anyways,
my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but in those recounts, Al Gore was never ahead. I don't think they ever had a recount where Al Gore's ahead.
Oh, and Ron Reagan Jr. lied on MSNBC when he said every recount shows that Al Gore won. I'm like, no, the Orlando Sentinel did a recount.
I remember
Al Gore wanted, and they also did it the way President Bush wanted, which is the funniest thing is the way Al Gore wanted it done. President Bush would have won by a larger margin than if you did it the way President Bush wanted.
But every official recount, right? Bush was always ahead.
Yeah, Bush was always ahead. And that's why we don't have paper ballots anymore because of people in Broward County didn't know how to vote. And Dade is those 3 Democrat counties, which is funny. Brevard County and all the other counties were able to vote Republican just fine. And they also used that same butterfly ballot to elect Bill Clinton twice.
Yeah.
So.
But what was you said afterwards, and I think I seem to recall this, a newspaper then somemehow got access and they counted the ballots themselves?
Yeah, that's the Orlando Sentinel.
All right.
Or what used to be the Orlando Sentinel. I think the Sentinel's gone. It's been bought by the Miami Herald, I think, now. By the way, speaking of newspapers, Don, what do you already thought as a media prognosticator on the Baltimore Sun being bought by Sinclair?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, that'll probably make some liberals stew.
But you're upset about that.
But here's the News Channel 8 is owned by Sinclair, and they're very left leaning. Wow. They editorialize. They're just as bad as the NBC affiliates. So I don't know. Are they really gonna kick those people out and bring in conservative reporters over to the Baltimore Sun? I hope so. I've got hope. I mean, Fox 45 is a lot more conservative than News Channel 8, so that is, I think, a great thing happening there. The Baltimore Sun.
But do you think the Sun will still be as liberal?
No, I don't think. I think it'll be like the Washington Star used to be, which was dubbed the conservative paper in Washington, but it wasn't that conservative. But
remember the Washington Times, or like the Washington Times?
Yeah, it's still the Washington Times is still around.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be that conservative. They're not going to be like the Times. So
okay.
For a while, which is not going to be there. But so Don, did you hear about all those lovely Tesla owners in Chicago?
Yep.
Yeah, the cold. Yeah.
I think that's something that was, we're going to continue to see, right? I mean, you get temperatures and conditions that get that cold, that bad. What do you expect to happen? It's like, there's no juice to run the chargers. So what are you going to do with your darn cars?
Yeah, and any consolation, my hydrogen fuel cell cars would have had the same issues because the water would have frozen in them.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's that and just other issues. I mean, EVs. I think we've talked about it before. I mean, their sales are slumping.
Yeah. Well, Hertz is backtracking though.
There was a story in the Wall Street Journal the other day about the Chevy Blazer. They had.
Oh yeah, they basically called it back. They're not selling it. They were hyping it, but it's like, come on, just build one. I mean, it's like I'm almost convinced there's only one Hummer EV that's around. They just drive it around everywhere, so you think there's more than one. The Hummer SUV, the one that I ordered, still hasn't been built. And not only that, they also raised the price. Maybe that's why people canceled orders, because when they initially did the order, it was like $72,000, and then they jacked up the price to $130,000.
Yeah, we know these cars are. I mean, Tesla keeps dropping the price of their cars, but they're just not making any money. And as I've said before, it's like, look, with all these manufacturers, we've got Lucid, Fisker, Rivian. All those companies are losing a lot of money for every car they sell. And most of them, they went public usually through a SPAC. When the money runs out, how do you raise more money?
Well, I'll tell you.
That price. And if you own one of those cars, I mean, I think you're severe. There's a huge chance that you will wind up with a very expensive, brick paperweight.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's one company that I think if they can break through the EV market is Hyundai Kia. Hyundai has an EV2 or EV3. I forget the name of it. It's a full EV. It's gonna be $24,000 out the door. Hyundai announced, I mean, they're the same company, Hyundai and Kia now, and they're gonna have the Hyundai Ion. Is that their EV, the Ion or whatever? But that's gonna be $22,000.
Wow.
They have the potential of being the Model Ts of the EV world. Frankly, if they can mass produce these and people will buy them, if they're reliable, they could be the Model T,
Yeah.
And they've also got a big EV, the EV9, which is only going to be in the 40,000, and that's a large EV. I mean, large SUV. I think it's built. It's going to be built on the Telluride platform.
Well, I think that's great. I think that'd be great if they can get that done.
And what's funny, Don, is about car sales. I don't know. I think Chrysler may have to apply for another government bailout. The way they're not even moving any of their cars, Chrysler is, Yeah, it is. So the Lightning's. These EVs are not cheap,
Yeah.
And they're all shocked that people are buying the $20,000 to $35,000 cars. I mean, the Ford Explorer is outselling the big giant, the Chevy Tahoes and the GMC Yukons, because you can get a Blazer you can get an Explorer for about $35,000, a new one. May not have all the bells and whistles you'd like, but
You want to be more environmentally sound or whatever, buy a hybrid or plug-in hybrid. You won't have the whole range anxiety and being tied to chargers that may or may not work if you're in a non-Tesla situation and stuff like that. It's just if I was in the market for a car, I would probably look at something like that, in a sense. But
well, Lexus is not
again,
hybrid.
I think I'm driving all of 5 or 6,000 miles a year, so probably the payoff to buy anything besides a regular car, probably the payoff period probably is way too long.
And I tell you, the plug-in hybrids are being sold. One thing, a neighbor just bought a hybrid. One of the things he mentioned, you really can't be a speed demon in those hybrids because you kind of lose the fuel efficiency at that point. So I can't ever own a hybrid then.
Yeah, and and then when you're with a lot of these cars, that you're going to also sacrifice horsepower, right? So if you're driving through the mountains of West Virginia or something like that, your climb up a mountain's not going to be as good as it would be if you had a 350 V6 or something under your hood or whatever.
That's true. And you can't pull a boat with I remember in the I guess the 60s and 70s, people were pulling boats and motorhomes with like Buick LeSabres and so on, and Chevy Chevelles.
See, the Rich comment. I mean, look, there have been rumors for probably a decade, right?
The Apple car, yeah.
The Apple car, but I don't. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's way out of Apple's expertise area, and it's too fickle. Buying a car. They do very well with the phone, but they're also their services side is what really brings in a lot of money. The Mac has been revived and is doing very well. They know they can stick to their knitting and make very high profit margins off their products, and they're fine. Selling a car, that's a notorious low margin business in terms of people are looking for a deal. It's all in negotiation. I guess you could be like Tesla in a way and just say, this is the price and this is the price you're going to pay. But do they want to also be involved in having to deal with manufacturer warranties on a car?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
You have to buy Apple Care for your car.
Yeah. That would
And
that would probably be very, very expensive.
And every month you got to take it into a dealership to update the firmware and all the up patches that you have for the car. That is the one thing that irritates me about it. It seems like, and I tell you, and Microsoft seems to be even worse than the iPhones, but it seems like every month there's a major update that I got to do, which is a pain to do. It takes, and I've got laptops that I turn on maybe 2 or 3 times a year, so I got to turn those on and plug them in and get those all updated, and it's not a pretty thing,
Yeah, if you've got a Microsoft laptop, you pretty much you better make sure you turn that on a lot
once a month,
because they send those updates out, and it's like if you'd rather get them done when they come out, rather than waiting. It's miserable.
What really kills me is when you do a patch, right, a major patch, and then 3 days, here's a hot fix for the patch we gave you. It's going to take another 20 minutes to do. It doesn't take that long, but it feels like it takes that long. But we've got, by the way, where in the world is Lloyd Austin, by the way, Don?
Yeah, that was, they could have made that a board game or a movie there.
Yeah, where's Lloyd?
Now, look, I will say this. As someone who has prostate cancer, I sympathize, I really empathize with them a lot.
See, that's not the issue. The issue, I think, is the fact that he didn't tell anyone.
Right. No, that's the thing. I mean, he has a serious issue. It needs to be rectified. But why all the secrecy? Okay, he's the defense secretary. It's not like he's running everything, unless he really is running more than we know about because Joe Biden is so incompetent. It is so weird. It's just the secrecy and it's like, oh, we don't, this is what. And then his top assistant was like vacationing on a beach somewhere. So it's like the number 2 is like, all right, this is not.
The other thing is that just what about his relevance if for days he could go missing during 2 wars? He's a Secretary of Defense, and I'm really going to be looking for him. Yeah, it's like the George Costanza thing where George decides he parks his car at the stadium where he works, but he's there. So the first thing every morning people see his car, and then when they leave his cars, they just assume he's there, but nobody actually in the office talks to him or needs to see him. It's always working.
I tell you, I tell you, there's some people that are like you'll see that with some civil servants. They'll show up, they'll have their computer on and they'll walk away, and then they'll show up for a few minutes and he'll walk away again, and then
Princess Kate. Wait a minute.
Who is Princess Kate? Oh, Kate Middleton? Is that who he's talking about?
I guess so.
But why? How did we get there?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I understand Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who are not royals anymore, are trying to get back into being royals because they're not really, none of their stuff has panned out quite so well. That Netflix series.
I think they thought they would be a lot more popular and in demand than reality showed up. The podcast kind of a failure and things. I don't know. I mean, there's there can be a royal fatigue with some things, but it's probably got to be worse if you're if you're an ex-royal. It's like at that point in time, why are you newsworthy, right?
Yeah. I tell you, Prince Harry may. Just think about running for governor of Pennsylvania. And his slogans were "Wild about Harry." But yeah. The king isn't there because he's got an enlarged prostate. So this prostate issue is popping up.
Well.
I just saw an article on cancer in the Wall Street Journal. It's just like that's like I guess one of the top diagnosed cancer for men.
I tell you, I was at this is years ago. they've had pomp and circumstance, just the British national anthem at high school graduations all over, and all
Elgar,
over.
Sir Elgar, yep.
And I was at my nephew Christopher's graduation many years ago, and some kid shouts out, "God save the Queen!" in the middle.
Da, 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 da.
All right, Dwight. I don't want this show to go to an hour and a half this week.
Yeah. Final thoughts, everyone. Let's start with you, David. Final thoughts.
Well, I'm just covering from the snow. Working on my Substack columns. So thanks to Dwight for complimenting on one of mine. And I'm working on one now dealing with the immigration battle. And while I think Republicans have great leverage, I'm concerned that I don't think anything will get done. I think they're going to go ahead and figure, let's not give Biden the win, although it's not much of a win for Biden because it's still going to be a key issue. And I don't know that Biden wants to give in to disappoint his base. So it's an election year, so I'm not convinced anything's going to get done.
Well,
anyway,
it's like the omnibus bill, the new speaker, they got the same deal that McCarthy would have gotten, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think that's the case. I think it's I don't think there'll be any real difference. I think Mike Johnson's still in the same boat that McCarthy would be in. And anyway, but that's about it for me. Looking forward to a good weekend. And Dwight, I'll see you and possibly Don in Tyson's Corner next week for
on the 28th. Yes, Governor Allen will be there. Yeah,
that's it.
Don, final thoughts.
Yeah, I do want to compliment you on your Substack, Dave.
Thanks.
I went after you sent me. I decided the easiest way was to go and subscribe to it.
Oh yes, I saw that. Thank you.
By the way, it's going to be we're going to feature his articles in Direct Line every week now, or as frequently as he writes them.
Good. Yeah, that's good. So that's good. I like the perspective and everything like that. You do a good job. So I just want to my hats off to you for that. We were talking earlier about the EVs, and I had not only was it just EVs frozen. I mean, we have Hertz who's selling a bunch of EVs and basically pulling back on that. But then when I found out that Biden had issued this order that federal employees have to use EVs or take a train, if possible, when they're on government. And it's like, are you kidding me? And it's like you're forcing government employees to rent EVs. I mean, a person getting out of that, how many EVs are there going to be able to rent to begin with?
Yeah.
And they always cost a lot more, and there's then the employees have got to make sure they find a charger. It's like, how much money is that costing us, the taxpayers, for forcing them to rent an EV? That's ridiculous.
Too much.
Yeah.
By the way, did the White House staff ever walk out? Because I know the government was closed the day they were planning to do. Did they ever walk out? I think on Tuesday when we had the first snow, the White House staff was supposed to walk out in protest of Biden's policies on Israel. Did they ever get around to walking out?
That's a good question.
It's funny if they rescheduled it for Friday so they get another 4-day weekend out of it.
So a couple of things, we're going to say bye-bye to John Kerry as the climate czar.
Yeah.
Not that he was effective at all in doing anything with regard to that. I mean, the Wall Street Journal pointed out that he's been trying to browbeat China on their, CO2 emissions, but during the time that he's been doing that, the emissions have just continued to go up. China's not going to listen to John Kerry or the U.S. Okay, I mean, it's just
you have more time to go windsailing in Massachusetts on his and go around on his yacht,
right?
And Rhode Island,
right? And then we have all these. Then we have the World Economic Forum in Davos. Does anybody really care about Davos anymore? I mean, there are news reports about these things because there's some news that have been made, but it seems too that the climate activists are not attacking Davos, for all the CO2 emissions and the carbon footprint type of thing like that. That's been come passe, but it's still a problem. I mean, it's still hypocritical of these people to come and say, we have to do this. We've got to be.
But Don, to quote Ariana Huffington, the planes were going there anyways.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Is she still around?
I don't know.
Still around. Well, they I'm waiting for them to all go and buy electric planes, so then they can lower their carbon footprint. If they can get a plane that will actually fly as much as they need to fly to get from point A to Davos or whatever. I have my doubts that this electric plane thing will ever really work very well. But
Don, they had the son of King Kong, the son of Godzilla. Now we have the son of Concorde. That's what they should take to go to Davos next year. Goes the Mach 9, or as I like to say, Warp 9. You can be in London in 2 hours.
Yeah, the old Concorde. And then finally, just the current Chinese vice president won the election in Taiwan to become the next president. So it was a three-way race. Red China had their favorite candidate who did not win. But the reaction I thought was a little more muted. I think part of the problem is that China's got its own internal problems: a slowing economy, real estate issues. Just they have the population growth that isn't happening. People don't want to have babies. I think China's got a lot of internal issues. That all that saber rattling and talk about wanting to take over Taiwan. I think it's still in their sights, but maybe not at the top of their agenda, because they need to fix what's wrong at home before they go and try to grab Taiwan. And I
also think the window is, as well, I shouldn't say I think. Ethan Gutman was on our other show, Direct Line, this week, and one of the things he did mention was the window is kind of closing on China's invasion plans for Taiwan. Just because, they're looking at the resistance the Russians are getting in Ukraine. And they'll probably have the same or even tougher resistance in Taiwan, frankly.
Yeah.
They did the quote friendly handover they got from of Hong Kong from Great Britain, right? And they let the status quo stay that way for 25 years more or less. And then the uprising, when they started to do the crackdown, and things like this, and they wiped out all the dissidents. Basically, they jailed them. They basically squashed them. And I don't know that China wants to go through something like that, and I don't really think they want to do a military action in this. Not that Biden's been super strong on it, but I think he's been a good defender of Taiwan up to this point in time. Though the new Chinese president did apparently just send out some alarms when he said that he was looking forward to somebody to going to the White House as the president of Taiwan, which people are like, oh, does that mean he wants official recognition by the U.S., which would definitely upset China. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I think Taiwan is safe from any big Red China interference for the time being until they fix things. And if Trump wins the presidency, in November, then I think China definitely backs off. I think foreign policy wise, Trump wins in November, and I think a lot of things change on foreign policy, because that foreign policy of this administration has been a disaster, and we need a fix.
Well, yeah. Absolutely, and inflation needs to be reined in, and a bunch of other stuff. But any other thoughts, Don?
Speaking of that, just that when you said that's the other thing too about the inflation is that Axios, that wonderfully conservative publication, right? They even ran a little study, a little article about the $126 grocery bill, and they which is whatever the basket of groceries is, comparing
this should not be $6.
Comparing it to what happened pre-pandemic, and then they broke it down by year, so that even if you look at when Biden took over to now, the grocery prices are up significantly, right?
Yeah.
And there's just no arguing about this. This is Biden wants to talk about Bidenomics. Let's talk about Bidenomics. People are paying more money for a lot of their basics, and they're not happy. All right, that's enough for me.
Yeah, and Don, as I said on January 6th, never forget January 6th when gas was $1.99, and you could buy a week's worth of groceries for $100 and still get some change back. My final thoughts are one, MCPS only you allocate 3 snow days. Really, you really bought into that global warming climate change agenda, didn't you? It looks like they're going to be using up. They probably today would have been their 4th snow day they've used this year, considering they didn't have school on Wednesday either. They had no school Tuesday, Wednesday. I think today they were out of school. So this is their 3rd, and I'm sure we'll probably get one more snowstorm between now and spring, which is almost right around the corner, actually. And Shamrock Shakes are a month away now.
Okay.
February 19th is when the Shamrock Shakes will be out, according to McDonald's.
Excellent.
You know, we've got
Bring back the McRib.
Don't they already do that?
That comes back every once in a while, right? I mean,
Don't they do that in October or something like that?
Yeah, maybe some.
McDonald's is rather coy with that. They it's like goodbye McRib for like forever. And
Yeah, they said forever, but yeah.
And then they bring it back.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like.
I think I've had the McRib once, but it's been such a long time I forgot what it tasted like.
Well, it's good. It's good.
Well, McDonald's always brings their fish sandwich back for Lent.
Yeah.
They do that.
The sandwich is usually there anyway. I mean, I've been eating.
Yeah, it's usually there.
I've been eating their fillet of fish forever. I mean, Chick-fil-A will, will bring back theirs, and I think Popeyes does something too for Lent too. They try to capitalize.
Me being a vegetarian, I've never tried any of those.
I know you were a vegetarian.
We had all those comments about Duke Zeberts earlier. I said it does remind me of I had a friend of mine who took me to Duke's, and his thing was his favorite dish was matzo ball soup.
Yeah, but they don't have restaurants like Duke Zeberts anymore. But there is one restaurant that is which is probably the Duke Zeberts of our time. It's called Missoni's in Perry Hall, Maryland. Lovely little place.
Wait long enough.
Everybody needs to go to. It's the Duke Zeberts of our generation. Duke Zeberts is gone, but Missoni's is there. And go to Missoni's, try their pizza, have their ice cream. They got great capreses, and I've been there, and the food is awesome. But back to my final thoughts. End of the commercial there. Other final thought is the fact that it's cold in the winter, and as I am now 52 years old, it is the cold's for the birds. I'm sorry, I don't. Maybe it's because I'm not north of 350 pounds anymore, but the cold goes right to my bones. Like yesterday, my neck was feeling the cold. So it's too cold. Let's give this global warming thing a try.
Yeah.
Would it be so bad if we had 60-degree weather in January? I don't think so. I'd still be able to go out running outdoors if we had 60-degree weather in the winter months.
All I can say is thank goodness my kids gave me a snowblower, because I don't know why.
You got a long driveway.
I don't know why I didn't buy one 20 years ago.
You've got a long driveway too.
Yeah, and with Montgomery County, you have to also clear the sidewalk in front of your house.
Yeah,
so the way my house sits, that sidewalk is kind of long, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna. It's an electric snowblower, and tomorrow, depending on what it's like, I'm probably gonna do the sidewalk.
By the way, did you know Montgomery County? My last final thoughts. They plowed the bike lanes on Old Georgetown Road. I like, really, because they got those little spikes, so it's not like you take a snowplow right through there to plow the streets. So they're doing this either by one of those push tractors, to move the snow or something like that. It's not done by a machine, They might. I don't know if maybe a bobcat could fit in there, but still, a bobcat's not, it's not efficient as a snowplow. But yeah, Montgomery County, there might be streets that might not be plowed, but rest assured, the bike lanes are plowed. And that's my final thoughts.
All righty.
All right.
Good night, everyone. We'll see everyone again next Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.